What happens to the soul 7 months after death? By now, the echoes have quieted. The light has guided. The veil has thinned. And yet something still lingers. Something soft, invisible, but undeniable. A whisper, not from outside, but from deep within. The soul begins to hear the whispers of karma. Not karma as judgment, not karma as punishment, but as memory, as energy, as a sacred pattern reaching out not to condemn the soul, but to invite it into recognition. 7 months after death, the soul begins to feel the pull of every unresolved lesson, every choice, still echoing through the web of life. It hears the soft voice of everything it's created, and everything that still seeks closure. These whispers are ancient. They speak in symbols, in sensations, in waves of light and shadow. They do not accuse, they ask, "Are you ready to see?" In this video, we'll explore the 5 karmic whispers the soul faces 7 months after its passing. Subtle messages that reveal what remains, what can be released, and what must still be transformed. Stay until the end, because these whispers don't only reach the soul of the departed. They may already be calling you to dot 7 months into its journey beyond death. The soul begins to feel something stirred deep within its energetic memory. It is not loud, it doesn't command attention, but it is persistent to soft, pulsing echo. This is the whisper of unfinished lessons. The soul, now expanded and more luminous, looks back not just at the life it left behind, but at the patterns that still remain unresolved. These aren't regrets or guilt in the human sense. They are vibrational echoes of what the soul came to experience, learn, and transmute, but didn't fully complete. Perhaps the soul had a lesson inside, but chose silence over voice. Or maybe it came to practice forgiveness, yet died, still holding one final grudge. These moments don't condemn the soul, they call to it. They say, "Here is the thread you didn't finish weaving. Will you return to it?" This whisper is not a demand, it's an invitation. The soul feels the pull to revisit certain energies, whether in future incarnations, in the astral realms, or through guiding the living toward closure. It begins to understand that nothing real is lost, only paused. Every soul lesson continues its rhythm until fully lived. For those still on earth, this whisper may manifest around the 7th month as unexpected memories, sudden emotional waves, or dreams where the deceased seems to ask for something: clarity, completion, or peace. If you've felt this, you may be carrying part of their unfinished thread. The whisper of unfinished lessons reminds us the soul is patient, but its lessons always return for completion. By the 7th month of its journey beyond the veil, the soul encounters a delicate, almost invisible weight, the pain it never fully released. This is not the pain of the body, nor even the raw grief of death. It is older, quieter, often hidden even from the soul's own awareness. It arrives not as a scream, but as a whisper. This is the whisper of carried pain. These are the wounds that never found expression, the betrayal that was buried, the trauma absorbed in silence, the abandonment that was dismissed as strength. And sometimes, the pain isn't even the soul's own. It may have inherited echoes of suffering from ancestors, from collective experiences, or from previous incarnations where no healing was allowed. Now, free from earthly distraction, the soul begins to feel what it once had to ignore. But this pain doesn't return to punish. It returns because the soul is finally ready to face it with compassion, to hold it, to listen, to release. This whisper is sacred. It arrives like a memory carried on a breeze, a wave of emotion without a name, a vision that the soul sees, not with the eyes, but with the heart of light. And in listening, true healing begins not just for itself, but across the timeline it's connected to. For the living, this whisper might show up as sudden waves of sorrow, even if things seem fine. You might weep without knowing why, or feel the emotions of someone who is no longer physically here. That's not just your grief. The residue of pain the soul is releasing through you, because it trusts you to help carry the healing forward. The whisper of carried pain reminds us, some burdens were never meant to be solved with the mind. They were waiting to be felt, and then let go. At 7 months after death, the soul begins to recognize a strange and subtle rhythm. Like a song it has heard before. Moments begin to echo. Emotions feel familiar. And then it sees it clearly. The same themes repeating across lifetimes. This is the whisper of repeating patterns. It's not punishment. It's not failure. It's the soul's deep desire to understand something fully, so fully. It is willing to return again and again until the energy is healed, integrated, and transformed into light. The soul sees the relationships that repeated, the fears, the betrayals, the cravings. Each one not a curse, but a classroom designed to evolve its consciousness layer by layer. But now, with the veil so thin, the soul begins to ask, have I learned enough? Can I finally choose differently? This whisper is not only reflective, it is empowering. Because with awareness, repetition becomes liberation. The soul begins to sense that the pattern is complete, not because it's solved, but because the lesson has been claimed. And in that moment, a karmic wheel begins to slow, and sometimes, to stop. For those still on earth, this whisper may rise as deja vu, or a sudden desire to break a cycle, an addiction, a family wound, a lifelong dynamic that no longer resonates. It's not random. It's the echo of your loved one's soul saying, we've lived this long enough. Let's choose something new. The whisper of repeating patterns reminds us, karma is not a prison. It is a spiral, and every spiral holds the key to your next awakening. 7 months after its departure from the physical world, the soul begins to perceive something extraordinary. The ongoing ripple of its actions. It sees how every choice, every word, every silence still vibrates in the hearts and minds of those left behind. This is the whisper of echoed consequences. It's not about guilt or blame. It's not about punishment. It's about awareness. The soul watches how a word of kindness spoken decades ago still warms someone in moments of darkness, or how a moment of neglect continues to echo through a child's choices, even years later. Some consequences are beautiful, others are painful, but all of them are part of the living web of karma. The truth that no action dies, no energy disappears, everything sent out returns. Sometimes, not to punish but to be understood. The soul realizes here that influence is eternal. And with that realization comes a deeper responsibility, not shame, but a call to become more conscious, more deliberate, more aligned in future journeys. But this whisper isn't only for the soul. At the 7th month mark, many of the living begin to feel strange waves of clarity, like suddenly understanding why someone acted the way they did, or realizing that still living inside someone else's emotional echo. This is an invitation. What karma are you still carrying that isn't even yours? And what karma are you still creating? The whisper of echoed consequences reminds us, we are never separate from the ripples we create. But awareness allows us to turn those ripples into waves of healing. 7 months after death, the soul stands in a space of deep stillness, no longer confused by illusion, no longer weighed down by memory. It has seen the echoes, the patterns, the pain, the choices, and then, like a quiet bell in the center of eternity, it hears the final whisper, you were always the one. And as the soul listens, it begins to heal, not because it is forced to, but because it chooses to. It begins to see karma not as a sentence, but as a conversation, a living dialogue between cause and awakening, between the past and possibility, between suffering and sovereignty. And perhaps, the most beautiful truth is this. These whispers do not belong to the dead alone. They reach through time and touch you. If you've felt unexplained emotions, if you've heard inner questions growing louder lately, if you've sensed that someone beyond the veil is still working through something with you, then maybe, just maybe, these karmic whispers are sounding in your own spirit. So tell me in the comments, which of these whispers have you heard? And what will you do with what your soul is remembering? If this touched you, stay close, because the deeper we go, the more clearly the soul begins to speak.